Hi, this is RaineVance of RaineVance.com, where we share love and wisdom that liberates your soul. Today, live from the nation's capital, we are very blessed to have William Whitecloud, best-selling author of The Last Shaman. The extraordinary intuitive book is about a truly transformative shamanic journey that some have called a cross between Indiana Jones and Carlos Castaneda. William Whitecloud is Australia's #1 best-selling author of The Magician's Way. He has moved his business to the U.S. and is now based in San Francisco, where he brings us his insightful and transformative workshops called Living from Greatness. William's workshops are dedicated to empowering participants in discovering and living their highest potential. In his newly released book, The Last Shaman, this wonderful best-selling novelist takes us on a captivating ride through the jungles of war-torn Africa, where the main character Mark learns to commit completely to the desires of his soul, which allow him to not only uplift himself, but uplift the whole world that he is a part of. So it is with great pleasure that I would like to welcome today this extraordinary author to our show. Hello, William, and how are you?
Hello, Rain. I'm very well. I love your name, by the way. It's so evocative. All things emotional and passion and spirit.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, I'd like to just start by saying the fact that The Last Shaman is poised to take its rightful place amongst The Alchemist and The Celestine Prophecy. I love both those books, have them in my library, and I know they're two other spiritual classics of our time. But I couldn't help but also be drawn to your workshops entitled Living in Greatness, as I happen to have a public page on Facebook myself called Inspiring Your Greatness. So I was like, wow, because I truly believe that we all have greatness that is living inside of us 24/7. And that is why I was so thrilled to come across your wonderful and insightful new book. Can you tell me more about yourself and what inspired you to write about this beautiful spiritual adventure called The Last Shaman?
Well, I'll try and tell you as quickly as possible. I know we haven't got a lot of time, but I had a life-changing experience 20 years ago. It was actually a 10-year experience in which I was very ill, and nobody knew what was wrong with me. And I was dying. I was receiving deathbed counseling, and the person that saved me was a layman, a young man in the street that I met right at the end of this traumatic period. And he told me he knew what was wrong with me. He even told me he had what was wrong with me, and he said that the cure for it, he told me if I started eating red meat again, which I'd given up, and if I started drinking white wine with my meals and having coffee every day and smoking a few cigarettes every day, I'd get better really quickly. So I did what he said, although it was, as far as everyone else was concerned, was a prescription for suicide. But I didn't care anymore. I had nothing left to lose. And through that experience, first of all, let me just say, I got better immediately. And the thing about that experience was that I never, ever believed in the efficacy of those substances. It struck me, it was my road to Damascus experience. It was a blinding light that hit me like a blinding light. I realized that there must be some way in which our focus creates our reality, the way we pay attention. Because for 10 years I've been paying attention on being sick and, just totally dwelling on that and focusing on that and doing everything I could to not being sick, and I just got worse and worse and worse. And then when I just let go of that preoccupation for a minute, actually, I immediately was restored to health. And so I was impassioned through that experience, this powerful experience, to understand how this principle worked, where our focus creates our reality. My focus creates my reality. And so I did. I learned a lot about that subject because I had the intention, and then that intention drew to me all the knowledge and wisdom surrounding that principle, to the extent that I became a teacher in that whole model and idea. A lot of it's self-taught and from my own experience, but then I attracted the teachings of others and ancient teachings and modern teachings that fit into that, and now live my life very powerfully in accordance with that philosophy, and support other people living very richly in accordance with that philosophy. And so from everything I've learned in this rich life experience I've had and the powerful principles I've learned, I mean, service is a big part of what I'm about now, obviously, and so it's incumbent on me to share that and I've discovered a richer part of me through all of this, and part of what I've discovered is that I'm a storyteller. So through the medium of story, I share my knowledge and wisdom around this amazing philosophy that our focus creates our reality, and we can create our focus in such a way that we will attract the life that's in line with our highest potential. And now with the Last Shaman, especially, the highest realization I believe I've ever come to through all of this is the profound truth that all of us are being guided every minute of our life. And if we can open to that guidance and hear it, and more than that, actually have the will and the courage to follow it, then we're really going to take ourselves to a very much higher place. And not only ourselves, it's not a self-serving orientation. It's an orientation in which if we do follow that guidance, we actually make a huge contribution to society, to our environment, to everything that we're a part of. And so that's very central to my philosophy, is living life in a way where we, actually in touch with our highest potential, our highest truth, follow that, live that, and through that serve, the world that we're a part of.
Wow, that is an amazing story. I mean, the fact of what you're saying is listening to hear our guidance and be open to that, and then having the courage to follow it. And I'm wondering if you can explain to our listeners some of the reasons why it is so important that we tap into our natural creative ability, and perhaps one or two ways that we can even begin to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, why it's important is essentially because in creating a vehicle for ourselves to be here on planet Earth, from the day we're born, we establish a vehicle for ourselves, and it's our body, it's our mind, it's our emotional body, it's our etheric body, and it's commonly called the ego, and the ego is our vehicle of being here on planet Earth and orientating and making our way, carrying ourselves through life, basically. But you see, the thing is about the ego is that in looking for orientation and trying to understand how it is here, and giving us a sense of individual existence, it's designed actually to create separation, and how it does that how it creates that separation is create limiting beliefs, notions about ourselves and about others in the world that give us a sense of being separate. And then through that separation, we actually have a sense of powerlessness and a sense of unviability, because we're separate from everything, and we have to then manipulate having everything we want, from even our life force and our survival to the love that we desire, and just the resources that we require to live. And so it's kind of like a struggle orientation, and it causes us suffering as we try and compensate for the sense of separation. We actually reinforce that sense of separation and create struggle for ourselves. So it's at the very best, it's a coping, struggling orientation. It's an effort-filled orientation where we have to slog through life, and it creates, as I said before, it reinforces our separation, so it causes us pain in our relationships, effort in our work, and especially separation from who we really are, and the ease and effortlessness that we can truly live our lives by. So just for that reason is to come back to our inherent connectedness and connected nature, and flow through life and be in touch with this higher part of ourselves, or higher part of the universe or life, that like is in touch with our inherent connection to everything, and effortlessly guides us and places us in the most optimal and effortless position in life, to flow through life in the easiest possible way, makes for a very joyful life. But more than that, it connects us to who we really are, and we feel the thrill of that, and the thrill of being connected to everything that we're a part of, and that is what triggers the human emotion of joy and bliss in us. So, I mean, the rewards of that are huge. But also something else that also makes us feel good as well emotionally, but has a sort of a higher social and spiritual significance, I believe, is that when we operate out of that higher side of ourselves, then because it's a side of ourselves that's connected to everything anyway, it acts in concert with the highest good of everything around us. And I was saying this to someone else today on the radio today, is recounting my own experience of life, is that it's seemingly been quite a selfish life because I've been very true to myself and acted in favor of myself a lot in my life. But in every case, that has then benefited everyone. And say, for instance, if you look at my own self-transformation, and I came from a family that was very much, entrenched in the apartheid, racism sort of mentality of South Africa and Southern Africa. And, you're talking about some quite heavy customs and origins there, of societal customs and origins and ways. And my own transformation, although at first it was, contrary to what everyone else around me believed and, wanted me to behave, by having the courage to follow through in what was true to me and become the person that was true for me to become, I actually influenced a lot of people in my family and in my community in a very positive way that then helped them, cope and deal with the whole change that came to South Africa when Nelson Mandela and, the freedom for all in South Africa happened, and so it was enormous benefit to myself. To myself, yes, but to my family and my community that I had lived from this side of myself.
Wow. I mean, that's such great information for people to hear. I mean, I've been a student of metaphysics more than half my life, and I'm just wondering, can you tell us some of the ways that we could maybe bring that feeling of connectedness that you're talking about to everything that you so poignantly pointed out on page 179 of your book, where you speak of that beautiful, innocent little baby who's in awe of everything in his surroundings and not questioning that he belongs here and not fearing that he is separate from it all. What are some ways that we could maybe bring that feeling of connectedness back to our lives?
Look, thank you, because you've hit the nail on the head. You've just hammered the nail right on the head, right there with that very quote and reference, because that's what it's all about. You see, there's a huge misconception. I'm not here to blame anybody, but there is a way in which our society has let us down, because it kind of has led us to live our lives in a way that we live by a few fundamental misconceptions. I won't go into all of those misconceptions. They're not many, I don't think, anyway, fundamentally, I mean. But one of the main misconceptions that we operate under is that we have to have it all worked out, and that we're faced with the way we steer ourselves through life, the way we orientate in life, is we react to our circumstances. We're subject to a whole bunch of circumstances, politically, and environmentally, economically, socially, in relationships, in our health, whatever. And then we believe that we've got to work that out. We've got to cope with that. It's almost like as though we approach life from a problem-solving orientation, and central to our problem-solving is knowing everything, or knowing enough, or having all the knowledge, And this is something I really discovered through the experience of my illness, All that I'm telling you now, I can really relate it back to that and see how true it was for myself in this problem-solving orientation, this need to know and control through knowledge and having everything worked out. And, it's just because the rational side of ourselves has taken over. It's over the last 300 years in our society, it's come to have all the importance and get all the power, and we put all the power in the rational. So the solution to everything is know as much as you can, have it worked out, cope mentally and rationally. And the thing about that is the problem with that is when we approach things rationally, and there's a time for rational function, but if it's what we approach the gaining of wisdom in our lives with, if we try and approach that rationally, the problem with that is that our rational function is the part of us that created our belief systems in the first place. And our rational function doesn't look at anything currently. It doesn't look at anything in the moment and look at, the big picture and just how it is now and what's relevant now, and it doesn't see the connections that can be made now, that need to be made, and the possibilities that exist there. It just looks at our belief systems and then projects that into our heads and comes up with that as being what is going on now, and refers to past strategies and pattern behavior as the answer to how we're going to get out of this. And it just entrenches us in our past experience, and if anything, can just keep it all the same, and sometimes makes it worse. And so to get out of that, to open up to a more inspired way of seeing things, a more inspired way of living, the first place we have to start is not putting so much importance in our rational faculty. It's to not need to know, not need to cope, not need to fix everything so urgently, is to just let things be, open up, and allow things to occur to us, is to let, as a function of innocence, as you said, is a function of letting go of what we know, because innocence is a dynamic, is a function of being outside of experience. It's not being experientially referenced. It's just being open to what's here in the moment. And this is a tough thing. This, and that's why it's an important book I've written, because it's instructional on how you let go and the steps you take and the disciplines that you develop to let go and allow the new to come in. And at first people won't believe it, so it takes some training, it takes some learning and discipline, that if you let go of everything you're not going to become a vegetable and just melt into the cosmic soup. You're actually going to suddenly realize you're going to employ an organ that you've never really relied on before, which is your imagination, which straight away will draw to you powerful information that is going to serve you in incredible ways, that the greatest people that we can point to, that we could all commonly agree on, are great people and have created amazing things in our time, from Steve Jobs, who the founder of Apple, to Mother Teresa, to Nelson Mandela, who I mentioned earlier, to Bono, the lead singer of the rock group U2. I could name a whole bunch of people. Richard Branson, the famous entrepreneur. I could mention all of these people, and we'll go, yep, they are amazing people, they're great people, they've done amazing things in their lives, and their contribution to the world and to society has been wonderful, And if you look at those people are living in this way. They're not living in the old rational paradigm. They're living outside of that. They live in a way where they are let go and are free in their minds, and these crazy ideas, it's what Steve Jobs said, the people that change the world are the people that are crazy enough to think that they can. and it's that place that we can occupy when we let go of, holding on to needing to understand everything, needing to control everything. It's if you read Eckhart Tolle, even we're talking about the most central spiritual premises in life, which is to not rely on your head so much, is to just let go and open up to something, from outside of that. Enter into the territory of the unknown, where the true, powerful knowledge and wisdom resides.
Wow. Letting go, I guess you're saying, is the beginning of overcoming our unconscious fears, and you gave some really great examples through your book, your own personal experience and your book, The Last Shaman. William, thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours. I really, though, want to thank you for sharing your personal wisdom and insights and intuition with us. And please tell us how we can get a copy of your beautifully written and amazingly insightful book, and how we can also be a part of your world.
Thank you. Well, look, the book is available on all platforms, the digital platforms, Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Noble, you name it. If you like to support bookshops and you have a local bookshop, if you go into that bookshop and ask them to order it, they can look it up and they'll be able to order it as well, in a hard copy. And certainly WilliamWhitecloud.com, my website, has all the information on the subject that we're talking on about me. It has free chapters of the books, and also leads to where it can be purchased. There's a store online, and there are also free resources there that support people in the very subject that we're talking about, the way of life that I'm talking about, that is so elegant and beautiful.
Thank you again, William. I really do appreciate your time to come on our show today, and I hope we can chat again soon. This will be featured on RaineVance.com, where we share love and wisdom to liberate your soul, and also will be featured on Facebook at RaineVance, and hopefully you'll connect with me on Twitter, as I'll tweet this on Twitter as well at RaineVance. And William, thanks again, and please continue to keep sharing your transformative wisdom and your light and inspiration with all of us.